What is up, everybody? Welcome to Tactical Jam Session. This is a tech test. Spontaneous, not planned, technical run. So as some of you guys know, my laptop has been crashing when I'm doing this stuff, especially when I have guests on. So I'm trying it out with my cell phone to see how it works. No planning to this whatsoever. So I was thinking, like, I want to test this out having a guest on with my cell phone to see how it works. Who can I have on where I don't have anything planned and neither do they? And we can talk about stuff and literally just have like a jam session and have it be freaking awesome. And I'm like, who else but the man himself, Sal Mascoli. Sal, what's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, brother.
Sal is like my brother from another mother. And literally, when I'm with Sal, he's almost like my mother. He's keeping track of what I'm eating. He's keeping track of what I'm doing. Forget about it. Sal is the man. He's my bro. Sal is a retired Marine, correct? And the founder of IDO Tactical, correct?
Yes.
And career law enforcement, Las Vegas PD, correct?
Yes. You're on it, bro.
Training police officer, Las Vegas PD, correct?
Yes.
And a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get out of the way for a second. Sal, what else do people need to know about you during our tech run, test, jam session go? What else do people, what should they know about you?
Oh, bro, the funny thing when you put it that way, and you know how, we've done stuff together before, but one of the things I always like to have happen is that people get to know me by the time I'm done with whatever we're talking about or whatever we're doing. You know, I don't like to give no resume stuff. I don't like to talk about background. I mean, I'll let you give the intro stuff, but other than that, everybody gets to know me after they see me and talk to me.
I love that. I love that. So I put out a post. This is what this reminds me of. Can you guys see me? I'm going to move over. I put out a post this week where I asked people the question, in the world of firearms, self-defense, and martial arts, what do you value more, evidence or eminence, right? So if all you do, that's what Sal's saying, if all you do is hang your hat on what people's credentials are, you think, well, they're awesome because they have these amazing credentials. Maybe they just have amazing credentials, but they're not fucking awesome. So what Sal is saying is, forget about whatever my credentials are. Make your decisions based on the quality of my content and the quality of my character. Am I correct in assuming that, Sal?
Yes, that is. But of course, you always have a better and more intellectual way of putting it than I do.
I don't think so. I don't think so. So I don't know. Let's just have a jam. Let's see how this works on my cell phone, see how it's working. Let's just have a jam session. What should we talk about? Honestly, guys who are watching this right now, there's no planning happening whatsoever tonight. There's zero plan with this. It's completely spontaneous. Am I right, Sal?
Yeah, it is. I have no idea. As a matter of fact, I didn't know if anybody was going to have questions if they had to throw questions out or how this was going to work at all. So I thought maybe we were going to just wing it from that, or you were just going to start off a conversation and we go from there.
Hey, Sal, check it out. Andrew, our boy Andrew is saying hello.
It's Andrew.
It's Andrew.
Right, and for those, an inside joke, whenever Andrew gets around anything, this is what I always say, and he knows the joke. I'm Andrew.
I know that story, by the way. I know that story.
Okay, then you know it too.
We'll ask Andrew if he's still watching, if it's cool if Sal shares that. There's no better storyteller in the planet than Sal Mascoli. Nobody better on the planet to tell a story. So if Andrew is cool with Sal telling that story, then leave a comment, Andrew, to tell us that it's cool that Sal can share that story about you. Hey, I'm Andrew, that story. If not, well, then we'll just put the kibosh on it. But hey, let us know if you guys are watching. Let us know this is a tech test, right? So let us know, how does it sound? How does it look? Having a guest on, how do I look and sound? How does Sal look and sound? Let us know. So Andrew, let us know if it's cool if we tell that story. All right. So back to evidence versus eminence. Sal, what are your thoughts? Evidence versus eminence in this industry.
it was like, well, like I always say, whenever I go to a seminar or and they're introducing me, and then they start putting out the background. One of the things that I always do is I cut off whoever it is that's because I know that's part of the whole build up at the seminar, so this way everybody gets their credentials out and whatnot. But to me, whatever I did in the past, even if anybody knows it, it doesn't make a difference. It's what content and what things I'm bringing to it right there at the seminar, at whatever it is. So how I look at it is, by the time I'm done teaching, by the time I'm done talking, by the time I'm done doing anything, that's how you get a sense of who I am. And then that's the thing that sounds that counts.
Why do you think it is that so many people in this industry are so enamored with? I feel the same way. I don't like to talk about myself. I don't like to talk about my credentials, but why do you think that so many people are so enamored with eminence over evidence? Like what I personally have known people that really have amazing credentials and everybody wants to touch that magic, and I've gone to train with them. I'm like, oh God. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like why do you think people do that?
Well, one of the reasons I think is because it does start setting people apart from others, because that's if you don't have any other knowledge of the guy, you hear like if you hear somebody's a Delta operator, oh my gosh, he's a Delta operator, so that's that becomes a big deal to that person. And the thing is, those guys have worked hard, so you almost don't have to say anything else after that, if you hear that. But other guys who start listening, and I have an example. There was a guy I did a thing with, and when they introduced you, they brought you out, and everybody had their name behind them, and then they had their like a list of the resume behind them on the PowerPoint. And this guy's thing went on like 2 pages. And he even had it like all reduced, and it was all, whatever class he went to, whatever thing he'd been certified in. And I think that it almost was something to prove to himself that this is what, validates me. And so when I was actually the last one to come out and speak. And then right after that went on, they had my name up there, and that was it. Matter of fact, I don't even think I had my last name. It might have had my last name, but I think it just said basically Sal Mascoli, and I didn't have anything drop. And the guy was like, well, why don't you put something down there? And I said the exact same thing I just said to you at the start of this. And that's how I looked at it. Like, all right, you'll know who I am by the time I'm done. But this guy wanted to prove who he was. And I think, in a way, I think it just makes it to where they think it makes him more marketable. They're going to get more hits, more likes, more, more customers if they, if they're putting something out, whatever the case may be. And, so I don't, to me, I like the way I do it. I like the word of mouth. I like people getting to know me, from the, from the perspective that they don't know nothing beforehand, and then, and then filling in all those gaps afterward. Some guys like to have everybody know who they are right before they get in for whatever reason, and I don't know. To me, to me, that's all well and good, but at the same time, I like the content more than I like, somebody else's history.
For those who are watching, Sal and I we were both a part of an awesome seminar at Nomad Krav Maga in January of 2020. It was an awesome lineup. Shannon Langwell, Jared Wahangi, Sal Mascoli, myself, and Instructor Zero. And I don't think that was even a part of that. I don't even think that was even an issue when it came to that seminar, because there were so many people there that were just there. They were just sponges. That was my observation anyway. I don't know what yours was, but there was what I loved about participating in that seminar was that there was no ego there that I sensed at all. There was no ego happening from the instructors. There was no ego happening. And Rage too. Rage spoke there too. Rage NG. There was no ego happening with any of the students there. There was just this really awesome synergy that was taking place. at that integrated. It was a integrated combatives was the integrated combatives super seminar. Some really great stuff. I don't know, what was your observation that day, Sal?
Oh, it was the same. I mean, the thing is, I look at when every somebody says no ego, to me that means that everybody has a healthy ego, because if because how you use the term super ego. To me, whenever somebody starts bragging on themselves or putting everything out too much, where it's I'm pushing too much, that means that that's all they have in terms of who they are. And they have to push that. I don't know if it's a self-esteem issue thing or what, but to me, I like it when somebody has a healthy ego. They don't have to say anything.
Yeah. And game seems to recognize game. You know what I mean? People who have a certain skill level, who have an eye for understanding how this stuff works, tend to gravitate toward one another, I think. I don't know. This kind of takes me to the next thing that comes to my mind as we have this conversation. And if you don't want to talk about this, Sal, you don't have to. Honestly, I don't want to put you on the spot with any of this, but I've been making this really interesting observation in the industry. It's probably been going on for a long time, where it seems like there's high frequency people and there's low frequency people. And all the high frequency people are sort of gravitating toward one another. You know what I mean? What I call the altruists and the empaths in our industry. And then there's what I call the low frequency people in our industry, which are the malignant narcissists, the psychopaths, and they tend to be gravitating toward one another. And I seem to be noticing very little in between. Is usually all people are in it for all the right reasons, or people who are in it for all the wrong reasons. And it just seems to be really amplifying itself in my observation over the course of the last couple of years. Has it always been that way, or is it just because I haven't been around as long as maybe you have? What are your thoughts?
I think one of the things that you said, how I think now what's happening is like the cream is rising to the top almost, if you put it that way. I think because in the past it seems like there was very few people, and they looked at the pie like it was finite. Like there's only so many pieces of this pie, so I have to downplay other people. I have to talk negative about others, build myself up really big, as if there's not enough training opportunity or opportunities to get work or anything like that. And so I think that that is one of the reasons why a lot of guys, have that ego or that push drive to tear others down, or and to build themselves up about it, because for whatever reason they think that I have to be one of the only ones that are going to be able to teach. But the training opportunities, are as infinite as the number of people that we could reach, the number of people, and not for anything, or the limited amount of people we could reach. If I have a group of only 5 guys, and they're 5 guys who want to learn something, I'm happy with that group. I'm not, yeah, and you know how I am. I don't go chasing dollar. I don't go chasing classes or anything like that. And that might be because I'm still working, and I don't have to, because I, have other source of income and other things going on. But maybe when I retire, I might have to start pushing that envelope a little bit too. But at the same time, I'm never going to tear anybody down, because everything I look at when I go to any course, I'm looking to learn something. And even if it's learning what not to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It totally makes sense. Absolutely. Right. Let me ask you this, Sal. Top of your head, personal protection. If you could teach only one thing, what would it be?
Now, are you talking about over like a one topic, or are you talking about just one move,
one topic?
All right. Well, to me, then I would be teaching transitions. And what I mean by that is being able to transition from whatever I'm doing physically to a weapon system and back and forth.
For example.
All right, an example. All right, so I'm in conflict with somebody. As I'm with conflict with somebody, I might be doing some kind of I might be grappling, standing up grappling, and then all of a sudden I have to break away and get to a tool, and vice versa. I might be going from tool off of tool to go hands on. So to me, those skills, when we combine them and make them seamless, so this way it's not like I'm staging things, make it to where I think we have a fuller, we're more rounded and fuller experience when it comes to anything. Because we've talked about this before, and everybody, and I still see it, go on every once in a while, where guys, I'll just shoot them, or they focus in on just one aspect. All right. But we live, and currently, if you're talking about self-defense, self-protection, talking about, being in the world, which is a more dangerous place, it seems, every day, you need to be able to function and integrate weapon systems and your hands-on all, seamlessly, as if it's one thing. Because again, everybody, has that. Okay, I'll just shoot them. All right, I'm just a shooter, and again, I don't like to tell a lot of stories, but I had this one story I have where I was talking to a guy a while back, years ago, and we and a bunch of my other training buddies were in there, and this guy says to me, "Well, Sal, I'm not gonna, if I saw you coming, I would just shoot you, because I'm not gonna ground fight, I'm not gonna do this," and I said, "Well, that's why I'll win every time, because I'm not just a ground fighter. I'm not just a gun fighter. I'm not just, a stick fighter. I'm not just this. I'm just a fighter. I'll fight you with an ash. If you give me an ashtray, I'll fight you with an ashtray. I don't care. Whatever, if it's something I could get in my hand, all right, here's my remote control. So right here. I'll do something with my remote control if I have to, because the world is full of, like one of the sayings I always say, the world is full of stuff. So use that stuff, to defend myself, as an obstacle, whatever it is. So that's, if I had to teach one thing, that's what I would teach: that seamless integration of a tool environment to hands-on environment all day long.
So be fluid and adaptable, and have a wide variety of different interdependent principles that work off of one another, so that you can adapt to variables that are unpredictable and unrepeatable.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more.
I love the way you always put whatever I say into such a better frame.
Well, it's just the way I say it all the time, and people are used to hearing me saying it. So I'm just sort of feeding that, feeding that back to the audience, so that they can take what you're saying, used to how you hear me say it. So maybe a part of it is just about validation. But what's so fun about being with you, Sal, whenever we're hanging out, and especially when we're talking shop, is like, we share a brain in so many ways. But I really always appreciate how we can also we can, in a healthy way, challenge each other's perspectives, so that we can grow and look at things from other points of view, to make sure that we're minimizing our blind spots. You know what I mean? One of the things I really admire about you is that you have a willingness to challenge your own thesis. I think that's so important. Challenge your own theories, right? And you'll put yourself out there with no problem to make sure to test those theories over and over and over again, kind of through this, kind of this little scientific method, to make sure that what you're saying is going to be effective. Would that be an accurate observation?
Yeah, that is. And a matter of fact, one of the things too, I like to constantly pressure test whatever I'm doing, because it could be something I'm doing forever, and somebody, I meet with somebody who's a different body type, different level of strength, different, perspective, whatever it is, and have them do whatever it is they're going to do, to see if because there's a counter to a counter to a counter. And one of the things I always say is everything works and nothing works. It's all dependent upon context and the individuals involved on what the outcome of whatever that conflict is going to be, whatever that, that opposition is going to be.
Yeah.
And, to me, again, because you never know what somebody's going to do. I one time, again, talking, stories right now. I remember grabbing this little guy up, and I couldn't get any lock on it. He was like little rubber man, just move, just, and it was like all kinds of just weird contortion of his body and whatnot.
I call those people bendy. They're really bendy.
Yeah, really, really bendy. A really bendy guy. It's like almost like he had it didn't had multiple joints, all along his arm. It was just a total bendy, weird guy. And it was like, wow, okay, this is kind of, in my mind, I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. Let's figure out this little human puzzle right here until I figured it out. And when I say it wasn't like a conflict that lasted long, but it was something that was like, kind of, whoa, this is kind of a little shocking. And I've had anybody, I didn't have anybody feel like this before, kind of situation. And then, I had to figure out what I had to do.
So do you remember that day when we were sitting in that freaking awesome barbecue place in Vegas? Man,
which one? Because I thought I take you guys to a lot of places.
We went to just one barbecue place. Do you remember that?
Was it Korean barbecue or regular barbecue?
A regular barbecue.
It was around the corner from my house.
Not far from your house. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, we were sitting in that place, and I asked you, in all of your experience as a police officer going hands-on, what would be the single most astute observation that you could make when it comes to dealing with people? And you said, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but I hope my quote is close. You said, human beings are predictably unpredictable.
Unpredictable. That's it. That's you didn't paraphrase. You said it exactly right.
You said human beings are predictably unpredictable.
Yep.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lean back in my chair, and I'm going to put my hands behind my head. I'm going to let you riff on why you say human beings are predictably unpredictable. Go.
Because they never do the same thing. Oh no! I mean, I don't know. When you say riff, I don't know how long my riff is going to be.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
It's going to basically be, the fact is, there's some things that people do that are patternized when I go to grab them a lot of times. But then all of a sudden, somebody who you feel something, and then all of a sudden, wow, this thing did not happen. Or he didn't move the way I expect. And that's one of the things I believe that's so important, because I have, and, getting back to another theory I have in reference to anything, in terms of, a person dealing with, who has to deal with conflict. And now, matter of fact, I believe that just people in general should have these characteristics or attributes. Is, one, I think everyone needs to be mentally and physically tough. If you're going to be doing, in this world right now, especially when you're talking about self-protection, a characteristic, mentally and physically tough. 2, adaptable. And 3, in charge wherever you go. And when I say in charge wherever you go, I mean in charge of not just in charge of other people, but in charge of yourself and your actions. So, because you're going to be accountable for those things, when everything is said and done. So the way I look at it is basically, people are always going to do something that you don't expect them to do. And if they do what you expect them to do, that's almost something that you didn't expect either, because otherwise you wouldn't have had conflict. If that makes sense. Totally.
And here's what's weird, man. And I don't know how far down this rabbit hole you want to go, but I think it's an accurate observation to say that there is a significant percentage of the population in the United States that does not want to be self-reliant. They don't want to be in charge of themselves. They don't want that. They don't want that kind of self-determination or self-efficacy. They don't want that anymore. They want to be wrapped in bubble wrap. They want to be taken care of from cradle to grave, and they want to live in this false sense of utopia right? And if there is an evil person, it's because of that evil person. I don't know. I can't. You can't make what is irrational rational anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna drive. For me, that's how I think of it. I can't. I'm gonna drive myself crazy if I try to make the irrational rational. So, but
If you try to logic, if you try to logicify what somebody else is, how they think or how they view, because again, look at society right now. And I have, another saying that I always use, and it's kind of like the golden rule, but it's how I approach life and things. Is there's a social contract in the world, and that social contract is, I don't expect you to hurt me. You don't expect me to hurt you. All right. But in turn, that social contract, when it's violated, there has to be some kind of consequence. And we are living in a society where like in terms of, let's just use that term, the cancel culture. The other day, I heard somebody say it's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture. There's a consequence to what you believe in. All right. And to me, that is such a limiting thing in terms of, like what I believe in. Yeah, because there could be, there's consequences to whatever. But the fact is, the consequence that he's always talking about would be negative in terms of if it's not what and I don't want to say the masses, because I don't believe that the masses follow a lot of the things that go on. I actually think it's just a loud group of like a louder, more vocal group of the minority. A loud vocal group of the minority, and somehow they've grabbed the attention of social media and or mass media, and that small group,
mainstream
media, that small group that has their attention and has that microphone tries to spew out those things to the masses to kind of, I guess, brainwash them, start to indoctrinate them into however, whatever they're going to try to believe or whatever they believe in. But the fact is, that's totally against what the American dream to me is. Because what the American dream, one of the things I think we need to get back to is, again, that idea of self-reliance, individual achievement, being able to do, whatever a free man and a free woman is able to do.
Self-determination,
self-determination geared around whatever drive I have. And, right now, loads of people, look toward, and it's such a funny dynamic right now, if you look at it, because currently one of the things that, that they talk about a lot, defund the police reform. All right. And I want you to think about this. For how long have police been in existence? And with that, in terms of, and I'm talking about police from my perspective right now, because, everybody hates us. Everybody wants to give the notion that, we're hated. And there was a time when I first became a cop, and this is where I came up with the predictably unpredictable, because when I first became a cop, most people would listen to you. That was the norm. If I told you to stop doing whatever you were doing, people would listen. It was only the hardcore 1%ers that that would, fight, do these things. But one of the things I always kept in my head from the time I was a young cop to now is the fact that bad guys are supposed to lie, cheat, steal, try to hurt me, rob me, do whatever things as bad. That's what they're supposed to do. If they don't do it, guess what? That's predictably unpredictable, because I expect them to do all of it, and then when they don't, I'm happy. When they don't do all those things, and I can just take them into custody easily, that's good. But when they do, okay, I kind of expected that also. So it's one of those kind of like a circular logic situations to where, I'm good and adaptable to whatever they want. But like I said, right now, if you look at the way society is, it's follow whatever we say, and there's going to be a consequence. We're going to, we're not going to adhere to this. We're going to, a popular thing, that they, well, not a popular thing, unpopular thing that they're trying to push and they're trying to shape a narrative on is like gun control. All right. What is common sense gun control? All right. Because what's common sense to me is not common sense to them, because again, like you said earlier, I'm trying to wrap my head around, their logic.
Well, that's postmodernism, where there is no standard. There is no standard. There is no moral objectivism. There's no opinion that is based on science or evidence anymore. I mean, I would say that I would still say that the majority of the population want that. They want standards.
Oh yes, they do, but they don't have a mic. They don't have a microphone.
That's right. They want moral objectivism. Right, but there's a small percentage that's trying to push this postmodernist movement, where they feel as though their opinion is and their feelings are arguments. It's the most bizarre thing to me.
And we're feeling. I have feelings. Feelings only count to you, but guess, because the world because even if you look at it from their perspective, they don't care how I feel. They don't care how you feel. They only care about how they feel, and if it's something that to them is offensive to them, then that's all that counts. Now, but there's a large group of them, like a little pack of hyenas that are all together thinking that, and then just barking. And while they're barking, of course, your roar is going to be obscured by 100 people barking, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so. To me, again, whatever, how they don't worry about offending us or holding us accountable to what they think is. And if you look at society, societies over history, whenever their moral compass has failed, that society has failed. Look at the Roman Empire. We Byzantine Empire. We can go through history and look at things. And the one thing that you can learn from always learn from history, is that we don't learn from history as a society. We always get back to some groupthink mentality that we break away from. All right.
The patterns are very predictable. When I was a therapist, some of you guys may not know this, but I had a private practice. I was a therapist and performance coach for about 15 years. And I had this thing that I would say to my clients all the time, where I would say, it may be a fact that you feel a certain way, but your feeling is not a fact, right? Feelings and emotions are so unbelievably florid and subjective. You could have 100 people in a room, right? And all of those people are all exposed to the same environment and the same stimuli. And you expose all those people to the same stimuli, and one of those people in the room is going to be triggered and offended in some way, right? And then you expose that same group of 100 people to another stimuli, and then another person is offended, but none of the other 99 people are, right? It just is this really weird subjective thing. And we're just going through this movement right now. And I personally, you don't have to comment on this, Sal, but my personal opinion is that it's social engineering, that this is all being done intentionally, knowing that it's a well-known fact that fewer than 10% of human beings ever think critically, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so they can totally exploit that part of the human experience, that so few people are willing to so few people are willing to think critically, and so few people are willing to live from the virtue of self-determination. And so it's so much easier just to put the blame on everybody else and be careful of everybody else.
The responsibility of taking care of me on somebody else. And let's put it, and as a matter of fact, let's bring it back to that idea of self-protection. All right. I don't think any bad guy, or any bad guy that I come across, or any bad guy you would ever come across, or anybody that is involved in a self-defense situation, I don't think that anytime you were to tell a bad guy, I'm not feeling this today. I feel this. I don't think they're going to care. All right. As a matter of fact, I know they're not going to care. All right. The bad guy doesn't care what you have going on. He doesn't care if you're going through a divorce. He doesn't care if if you've got good things, bad things, whatever. It's not like, oh, you know what? I'll pick somebody else today. Oh, you're not having a good day. Guess what? Their idea is you're not having a good day. I'm going to make it worse. And hence, that's why I always say train to win on your worst day, because the world does not care. The world of evil doesn't care one way or the other how you feel. All they care about is what the end result is. And that's what I wish the rest of the world would get through.
Yes. Let's jump off on that. All right. Let's talk about the psychology of the violent criminal. And maybe not even the violent criminal. Maybe it's a psychopath or narcissist that is subcriminal, right? I think it's important, and tell me what you think after I say this. I think it's important that people begin to understand the reality of the psychology of the psychopath, the sociopath, and the narcissist. These are people that are void of empathy. They're not capable. They can't see things from another person's point of view. The only thing that they're incapable of remorse. So they only understand two things, and that's strength and weakness. Right.
And I'm totally in line with that. And really,
let me forever about the psychology of these people, right? But hold this. Let me finish this, Sal, because I know you're going to add really great color and commentary to this. Okay. So projection 101, right? We project our intent onto other people, right? And so they know that. So good people project their intent onto bad people, meaning they assume that bad people aren't that bad. Right. And so what they do is they exploit that. Right. And so all they understand is strength and weakness, and they're void of empathy and they're void of remorse. So how would you like to add to this conversation as a person who has been a part of law enforcement on the streets in Las Vegas for an entire career, getting ready to retire in the next couple of years? What would you add to that?
Well, and that's and again, I want you to think back to that original thing. They don't, and I'm going to put it this way: like I teach a class on active assailants, and as you go through, and you talk about different situations, different tools, different I go through all these things, and some people are psychopaths, some might be narcissists, some might be sociopaths, but guess what? Some of them might have a political leaning towards this, but how I always look at it is it doesn't. I don't care what that person is and what his motivations are. All I care about is he is doing some kind of evil action that needs to be stopped. So, and because the fact of the matter is this: that same bad guy, that narcissist, that sociopath, that psychopath, that person with that could be have political leanings towards one thing or another and wants to push that type of agenda. They also don't care about if I'm a good person, bad person, or whatever. All they care about is what their end objective is. Whatever it is, and again, it could be that they're trying to hurt me. It could be that they're trying to steal my money. It could be whatever it is. They don't care how we feel. And at the same token, as good a person, and I always say this, and it's said in a bunch of different ways all over the place. Jordan Peterson has something similar, a saying close to it. Other guys have it. But the fact of the matter is this, right? Violent people only understand, only understand the language of violence. And the fact of the matter is this, a good person knowing how to use violence in the same way that that knows how to speak that same language, all right, is what makes them dangerous. Everybody else is or peaceful. I'm sorry, is what makes a dangerous man is a peaceful man because he has a choice. All right. And everybody else, everybody else basically are harmless. All right. If you're not capable of doing it, that doesn't mean you're peaceful. It just means you're harmless. And so to me, that lends itself to that same idea. Because I don't take into effect. Look at think about like 80s movies. Like 80s action movies and action adventure movies. 80s, maybe early 90s. What is one of the things that always happen? Like the good guy finally, throughout the whole thing, the bad guy's winning, doing this, that, the other thing. And then the good guy finally turns the tables on that bad guy. And then the bad guy acts like he all of a sudden has had some kind of reformation. And it's like, no, don't, please don't. I have children. Oh, whatever. I'm sorry. I won't do it again, whatever. And then what do they eventually try to do? They try to spin it back around and stab him in the back, and do whatever it is, and then but then the hero always comes out on top. But the fact of the matter is this, that's what bad guys will always do. They'll always play off of your sense of fair play. Oh, this guy, he's a good person. He's going to be fair. All right, he's going to be this. He's going to be that. He's going to have empathy towards me, and that's a hard balancing act to do, especially in terms of law enforcement, because whenever a police officer works to take somebody into custody, that person is still afforded the umbrella of security and safety that officer brings to the table, because he has to still, because think about, look at the world now. Like a cop even doing something right is criticized. If you look at, the Ohio situation, a cop doing something that, there's no other choice. They've reached their point of preclusion to where they have nothing else they could do, and they're still being criticized, chastised, hung out to dry. But the bad guy doing this, doing worse things,
It's
is left to have no critique.
Sal. It's maddening, Sal. Hey, so let's jump off on that for a few minutes.
So
you and I can go. We can really have some really interesting, in-depth, and educated conversations on the use of force. Right? We're both experts on the use of force. Right? We're both like literally experts on force science and analysis. Right?
Yep.
Isn't it? Well, here, I don't want to put it this way, because I don't want to load the question for you. I'll just say it from me. It is absolutely and utterly fascinating to me to watch the general public believe that they have any kind of insight or understanding when it comes to the reality of use of force. The public has been so misled and disinformed. So misinformed means it's bad information by accident. Disinformation means it's bad information on purpose, to intentionally mislead people into believing that they have an understanding of the reality of the use of force and force science through Hollywood, right? Through the media, through general opinions. And force science is not, I would say, in my opinion, force science is not intuitive. It's not intuitive until you have an understanding of the reality of how force science works. Then it can become kind of intuitive. But even then, it's a science. It's both a science and an art at the same time, because the variables are so unrepeatable. But I put out a video last year saying, stop making commentary on social media about what your fucking opinion is on public use of force cases. Stop doing that. One, you're not qualified to do that. And two, not all the evidence is in. You don't know the totality of the circumstances yet. Even me, I'm a certified force science analyst. I don't make any commentary at all on these force science cases until all the evidence is in. And then I went on to talk about this. I know you're going to add really great insight here, Sal. I said, you guys, I own a really fancy horse. My wife and I own a really fancy horse. His name is Liberty's Legacy. He's a dressage horse. He's a really fancy horse. And I was just with him all day today. I brought him home. I've raised him. I've been around him for years. My wife rides and competes with him on a very high level. So training 5 days a week. When I watch my wife on a dressage horse, you know what I see? Even though I own that horse, I just see a person on horse. But you know what she sees and what experts see? They see all these intricacies and details that I don't even know exist. So when they come to me and they ask me my opinion about what's happening on the horse, what do I say? I say, I'm not qualified to have an opinion about competing on that horse. To me, he's just my pet. Do you see the analogy here when it comes to use of force? Go, Sal. Come on. Enlighten
now
the public.
There's one thing that and right now that's going on, and there was a period of time where it stopped, and I think it cycles back through continually. And I'm going to say police work, the profession of policing.
Sal, look, you're saying hi.
Hello, Marissa. How are you, hun?
We were just talking about you, babe. Sorry, I interrupted your thought.
It's okay. It's okay. Your wife could always interrupt everything. All right, she's your queen. She you have to honor what her interruption. So the thing is this: the profession of law enforcement is the only profession where everybody else who does not do the job knows the job better than the professional. We're in terms of how everyone critiques us. Why didn't they shoot the knife? Why didn't they shoot the leg? Why didn't I heard some one of the a stupid thing the other day? Why didn't they shoot her in the butt? Or whatever it is. All right, and again, before the facts are in, before things are like any narrative, and again, I don't want to go to a specific, but I will go to the specific case because this is a thing that's currently there's been a big deal within the media for the last week and a half. Is the Ohio shooting of a 16-year-old, if you just say it, of a 16-year-old girl was shot. They never, initially they didn't say that she had a knife. They didn't say she was going to stab anybody. They didn't say anything. But when looking at that body cam video, and again, I'm, in terms of being pragmatic, in terms of what you, just like what you said about seeing the horse, when you see your horse, right? When I see that video or whatever video it is, all right, I don't see a 16-year-old girl. I see a 200-pound human being attempting to use deadly force on another human being, and it was interrupted.
Immediate proximity.
Yep, and I see, and it was interrupted by another individual, regardless if he was a law enforcement or not. I mean, the fact of the matter is this: let's just make all of them. We don't know what their jobs were, how old anybody was, or what the situation, sex, this, that, the other thing. Let's just say they were blobs of humans, just shadows of humans. All right, but I see the tool of a knife. I see, another individual getting ready to be stabbed with that knife, and somebody interrupts that and saves the other individual. To me, all those other things are inconsequential when you come down to the pragmatism of it. All right, and let's just say, let's just say that it wasn't even a real. Let's just say it wasn't a real knife. It was, but let's just say it wasn't a real knife. It was a training knife, and I rolled up on that. All right, pragmatically, it's still the same thing to the perspective of what is known to the officer at the time when he used force.
All right, Sal, so we got a question here from Thomas Turner.
Yes, I do. The answer is yes.
Sal, will you read the question out loud and then answer it?
Sal, do you do any training with fire EMS in Las Vegas? There are a lot of different considerations for us, but it is absolutely a gap in training, in my opinion. I have seen it go so south quick in the absence of PD. What's the appropriate action? I actually do. In multiple facets, I teach some stuff to EMS and fire. All right, and I teach a lot of control holds. I wouldn't even say control holds. Control of an individual, because sometimes they're fighting while they're still on the gurney and things along the lines of that, all the way up to force protection in terms of like a rescue task force where we're going into an active assailant situation and what the fire department has, what their jobs are and what the force protectors' jobs are. So it runs again. I teach both sides of it, to where it's something, where they're coming with us as police officers, and something that where they have to be able to do something for themselves in terms of self-protection. Because again, a lot of times they go on calls to where, the police aren't present. And it could have been a situation where you thought the guy was ODing or whatever the case may be, or not. As a matter of fact, because cops would go on that. But if it was something to where somebody called it in and it turns out to be something different, or a regular citizen that is actually, getting ready to be strapped down, and all of a sudden decides they don't want to be strapped down. They don't want to go to the hospital. They don't, and it's for their own good. So, yeah, so I run the gambit in terms of the answer is yes. I believe that there's a load of training, and I do believe I do a load of training for that, and I believe there is a gap in that training, because I don't think that.
Sal, let Thomas and everybody else know how they can reach you if they want to contact you for training.
All right, I'm going to do something crazy because I don't know how many people that are out there right now, but I'll throw out my phone number. If you're here in Vegas or anywhere else, you could reach me on Instagram, Facebook Messenger, but I'll give you a heads up. Everybody knows how bad I am at social media and technical stuff. I really don't, worry about that. But so what I'm going to do is this: 702-277-7159. 702-277-7159. That's my phone number. Reach out. You can call me direct. I'll answer. I answer the phone all the time. So you guys don't try not to call me in the middle of the night, but I answer the phone, and that would be the way I would do it.
If you can, he wants you to DM him, Thomas Turner. You want to make a note.
Let me go to that real quick. Otherwise I will forget.
Thomas Turner's a good dude. He's been up here to IDS to train with us at our boot camp last year. He's frequent on Aperture Fight Focus, and he's in the inner circles. EMS in Florida, I believe. Fireman, and EMT.
Thomas is in Florida. I might be going down to Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. So reach out to him so that he can.
Did, Thomas.
So he can hook up with you. All right.
There was a question right before that. I missed. I don't know if it was the same one. There was a question from a doctor.
He says, Dr. Catmilk says, I've only seen one gun shot out of hand. It was a stationary target with time to align the shot, and the action was given permission after requesting the shot. Even then, it was a hard shot. Yeah, I mean, that a great point, Doc. I mean, that's it. It's not even really worth talking about, right? I mean, he knows that. It's not even worth talking about. Shooting gun out of hand, shooting extremities, things like this, under stress, in compressed time, without taking into consideration the totality of the circumstance, right? Listen, there's something I also want to talk about, Sal, that I'd like to get your take on. Something I'm a stickler about, but I want to know how you feel about it, because I respect your opinion. I don't respect everyone's opinion. I don't. I'm just being honest. Like I don't weigh everyone's criticism equally. I just don't. But I don't think it's a good idea, good practice to do that, especially in this profession. But let's talk about video. Let's talk about video in use of force cases. All right. I do have expertise in video, right? I was a film producer, writer, producer, director in Hollywood for 10 years, right? I produced my first commercial when I was 19 years old. I started doing that stuff even before then, when I was in high school. Video can be I can tell you this from as a force science analyst as well, because there's a lot of people out there who make a lot of commentary, sort of pseudo professional commentaries based on video. All right. And they have social media channels that are super popular just based on videos. Right. surveillance videos. And I always want to say, I'll just give you my opinion, then you can give me yours. Video can be very deceptive. Okay. There are so many things in video that can be helpful, of course, as a valuable piece of evidence, but can also be very deceptive. One, what is the context? Two, was it edited? What were the omissions? What was taking out of it? Three, what are the angles? What? Four,
I'm so glad you just said that, Todd.
what's the lens? Was it a wide lens? Wide angle lens? Was it a narrow angle lens? Right. Next, what was the shading like? Next, what was the audio like? There are so many factors, and just because you can see, because everyone says what video doesn't lie. Absolutely, it lies. Video lies all the time, right? And just because you can see it on video, and that's what you're seeing in hindsight, what you've been primed to see.
Todd, let me ask.
Hold on, Sal. Hold on. Doesn't mean that's what that person was seeing. Whether it's a police officer on body cam or whether it's a surveillance camera, just because you can see it from that point of view doesn't mean that's what they were seeing at the time in real time when they're processing and computing millions of pieces of data instantaneously. I think it's irresponsible for people to say, let's take a look at the video and say the video tells the story, and then say, when a story comes out, they'll say, well, let's follow the 48-hour rule. Well, I'll give you my opinion in 48 hours. Are you fucking kidding me? Do you know how long it takes for all the evidence, the totality of the circumstance to come out? And even then, you probably don't know the totality of the circumstance. Go ahead.
And matter of fact, it's so funny you say that because I use this as an example because, we tout body cam videos right now. We tout the use of them, and more times than not, they do save the officer. More times than not. But I'm going to give an example of just exactly what you're saying in terms of angle, perception, this, like how wide a screen, what's going on. All right. So I saw a video a few years back. And it's of these two cops fighting with this larger guy in front of a convenience store. As they're fighting with him, they take him down. And the camera angle that was being filmed with somebody's cell phone as they were holding a cell phone up was from about 100 feet away, and it was an angle to where the profile of the whole fight was happening. So it was from a perpendicular angle was what was being filmed. And in this video, as you see the two cops struggling, all of a sudden, as they go down, there's a struggle on the ground, and then all of a sudden you see the one cop draw his gun and shoot 2 rounds. I don't even know how many rounds, but shoot the guy, and it looks like it was an execution. And that's what the media had showed in that town of what the incident happened. Today,
the social media channel.
The social, yeah. And they showed that one angle. And they put it out to where. And right now, also, it's not even just the video, but if you listen to the language that the media uses, all right, officer kills, all right, not officer stops, not officer, it's always like I remember there was a period of time where, suspected, people say suspected, this, that, but now it's like they work on using the language as very definitive, as if somebody, the person being shot is, in the right, no matter what, is a victim, no matter what. So now on this video, they had this thing going on, and it was getting this town all up in arms for, a few days. Well, the store owner and again, not with the video, they didn't tell what came before, and they didn't talk about what the animal. Well, what it turns out is the individual was in there robbing the store, and these cops just happened. It was robbing the store. The cops just happened to get there as the guy was finishing robbing the store. The store owner yells to them, tells whatever's happening, and his camera angle is right from the door, right above the door to the entrance, and it shows clearly as they're fighting with this guy, as they take him down, he reaches in and pulls his shirt up, and he draws a gun. From the downward angle, you could see that he's clearly got the gun. And then you also heard audio yelling that the cops were yelling, "Gun, gun, gun." And again, the totality of circumstances. From one perspective, it looked like these police officers murdered somebody. From this other perspective, it looked like they were going to be shot. So the thing is, as great as cameras are, again, they don't tell the whole story. Another one I saw, they zeroed in on what the action was, and then they didn't show all the other things that were going on around, but like the wolf pack, and again, on a different video. So again, like you said, the video is not always evidence. The video is not always telling the full truth. It's only telling a perspective. Just like just like when now again what we talked about earlier,
it's a slice
in terms of misleading, misinformation and disinformation. Right now, for whatever reason, it's popular to put disinformation, whatever it is, coming from all angles in terms of anything. Like again, like we said, why didn't you shoot out of the hand? Why didn't you shoot buttocks? Why didn't you shoot an extremity? All right. These people, there was a period of time where it seemed like that kind of tailored off. Like we had informed the media enough to where they started going away from that. And now we're right back to that, that cycle. And the thing is, I think, in law enforcement, a lot of law enforcement agencies always act from a perspective of being on defense instead of going on offense right off the bat, to where because the longer you're on defense, the more things you have to deflect. Eventually something gets through. Once you go on offense, you change the whole dynamic, even in terms of a narrative. And even in terms of a narrative. Hold on, Todd, hold on 1 second. My daughter is trying to call me. Let me tell her. Jenny, I'm on doing an interview on the computer. I'll call you in a minute. Sorry about that, buddy.
It's okay.
The media needs to stop. Yep, that's exactly correct. And I'm sorry, on my thought, finishing off that thought, because that's what's going on now. It's like, those precepts are being is disinformation, and law enforcement should take an active role in saying, no, this is why somebody's done something, instead of worrying about telling why we're doing something. It should be put right out there once that, once the analysis comes to bear. But at the same token, is the media going to listen and allow that information out? I mean, because they control what they allow out. So even if I could have a press conference tomorrow on something and nobody could come listen. So it doesn't make a difference, if we don't have the microphone or the camera to speak to.
One of these days I'm going to have you on, Sal, and I want to go through, I have a lot of data on this, right? And I want to go through that data and have in-depth discussions with you. I'm a data freak. I'm all into data.
I know, and you are data porn guy.
I'm a data porn guy, right? I want to go through all that data with you because the data is so staggering, but there's no way around this. There's no way around avoiding these different types of. It doesn't matter who's doing the job, right? It doesn't matter the circumstances that are involved. It
could be a citizen defender or a police officer. It doesn't matter. It does. Let me add.
You can do everything perfectly. You could do everything perfectly by the book, but you're just faced with impossible circumstances where any person, whether it's a police officer or not, let me finish my thought here, Sal, okay? Any person, whether they're a police officer or not, could do everything right, but they're faced with impossible circumstances where they have to choose between 5 bad choices. What's the least bad choice in compressed time under extreme stress? It's important that I'm an expert on human performance and human dynamics. I am a fucking certified expert on that shit, and I have been for a very long time. The public needs to start to understand the importance of having a realistic expectation of human performance under extreme stress in compressed time with an infinite number of variables that they're dealing with. There is no possible way that any human being can handle those circumstances perfectly. It's just the reality of the conditions.
It's called I call it slop.
Yeah, that's right. It's slop. We have to, and it lives in gray. It lives in a gray spectrum, right? A continuum. It lives in a gray continuum that's fluid and flexing all the time. You know, Marissa, my wife, has said to me many times, she's worked in surgery her entire life since she was 18 years old. She's been a part of tens of thousands of surgeries, probably more than that, from anything you can think of, a lot of orthopedics, but brain surgery, heart surgery, whatever. And she said to me many times, what you do is so much more difficult than brain surgery. Because in brain surgery, we know we've already gathered the intel. We know the patient. We control the environment, right? We control the overwhelming majority of the variables. That's the point of surgery. That's the point of the OR. If we make a mistake, we have a liability insurance, right? We don't, there's all of the, which you guys do is so fluid and so dynamic and so dangerous. And you don't, it's almost impossible to control those variables. It's infinitely more complex and more difficult than what brain surgeons perform on a regular basis. But if you look at what the statistics are, police officers are astronomically successful in those use of force cases.
And yes, they are. And brain surgery is done in a controlled environment.
Exactly.
The world is not a controlled environment. Everything, when a dynamic situation, again, that's constantly changing, and again with compressed time, just like you're saying, comes into play. Slop happens. All right, think about this. All right, you roll with you roll up with Greg Nelson, one of the greatest guys that could be, right? And think about how fluid he is when you're when you're in the controlled environment of on the mats. Now you take away the mats, you make it okay. You're outside in blacktop, maybe rolling on top of glass. Do you think that you're gonna be able to pull off the same jiu-jitsu moves on the ground on top of a bunch of glass and blacktop that you are, on the street?
You know what else? He'll say the same thing.
Oh, I believe he'll say the same thing.
He agrees with you 1,000,000%. He'll say the exact same thing. Yeah.
I mean, so think about that. Not every move is gonna look the same. Not gonna look fluid. And it might not even be a move you could use. And you said something earlier, and I wanted to grasp onto it, and I couldn't get to my phone to write the note soon enough. It was reference, media. Somehow you said something about the media, and I was like, oh, I wanted to jump on that, and so I lost my trend of thought on it. I can't remember what it was I was going to bring up, but again, just getting back to the totality of what our conversation is on. Everything leads back to the fact that you don't want to say, okay, I want to be a Monday morning quarterback. When something's blatantly wrong, you should Monday morning quarterback something. But at the same time, when you don't have the totality of all the circumstances, don't have all the information in there, don't understand the dynamic, because again, I just gave one example.
Or the train died, or the train died. The train died.
I just gave one example of, all right, you could be the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner there is, but then all of a sudden, now you've got the dynamic of, all right, I'm on blacktop. I've got a broken glass around me. I've got three or four opponents that I'm going against, not just one. So again, all these things come into play, and that's what a lot of people don't take into consideration, because again, how many news news people would, because I had a couple of years ago, we were doing this thing, and we used to do this media day, and what we did on media day was we would bring in local media people, and we would put them through scenarios. As we put them through scenarios, we gave them a class early. We gave them a general class on what what things they were probably going to encounter, and then a use of force class. Then we tooled them up and sent them out to go do the scenario. And I did it with the media. You do it with regular citizens, and they all fail. The majority of them failed almost every scenario there was.
They didn't just fail; they failed miserably.
Yeah. And the thing is, and the reason they failed was geared towards the fact that they weren't trained to do that job. They weren't trained to do that job. And also they didn't have an understanding of the scope of the job before going in. And I always used to appreciate those guys that were willing to do it. There was two, though, that we would ask to always come down, and both of them will. I report on it. I report on things. I don't take part in things. And that, to me, seemed like such a closed-minded view, because he didn't want to subject himself to the idea that he could fail on film, to where it is. And that to me is so important to where, and that's why I usually don't jump into a lot of the social media arguments and this and that and the other thing. I let those things go, because I don't really get that in depth with a lot outside of my circle. I really don't care about whatever's trending or whatever's going viral or whatever. But once in a while I see something and I got to say something, reference it. And one of the things that I noticed, and with these last couple of shootings, and is like these media people that throw out stuff and they say, well, I don't know. They give all these opinions, and they're like, I don't know, but there had to be something else they could do. No, and my thing is, all right there is where your conversation should have ended, because you don't know. If you don't know, don't lend an opinion, an opinion, because your opinion is invalid because you have no background to go with. Just like if it was, let's just say, and again, I have no experience with launching a rocket. All right, if I watch a rocket take off and it explodes, I could give a whole bunch of things that I think could have happened, this, that, the other thing, but it's not fact, because I'm not a rocket scientist. So if you're not a police scientist, a use of force scientist, then guess what? Look at what it is. Think, wow, that's really screwed up that happened, but don't give an opinion on what should have been done when you don't know what to do.
I just think, as a general rule of thumb in life, that's important.
That should be.
I've been dealing with a cold all week. I just think, as a general rule of thumb in life, that's important. I think this is what secure people do. They'll when they get into an area where they don't have real expertise, it's important that they say, listen, I'm not qualified to have an opinion on this topic. I say this all the time, where I'll tell people, they'll say, well, but I want your opinion anyway. I'll say, okay, I'll give you my uneducated or my pseudo-educated opinion, but I'm not an expert in this area. So I'll share it with you, but take it for a grain of salt. But some few people are willing to do that today. They're not practicing just good sound, objectivism, or just good sound thinking, where they're like, people just think they can just, as long as they have an opinion, they can just bullshit their way through fucking anything.
And the thing is, it goes back to what we said earlier on, all right? Because I could have an opinion on something, but my opinion is usually geared around what? My feelings. And guess what? My feelings don't mean anything when it comes to the grand scope of things.
Zero.
My feelings
I'm just passionate about it. All I'm concerned about is what the evidence shows me.
Yep. That's exactly it. And that's what I wanted to say earlier. Okay, we talked about earlier. You brought up how you are a data porn guy. You look at data. You understand data. Now, data is different than statistics. All right, and that's one of the things that people don't seem to. That's another thing, because statistically, I can alter statistics to match up whatever things I want to say. But what data shows usually leads to a mathematical answer, and math never lies. Math doesn't lie. All right. So data doesn't lie. So I one of the things that I don't like, like a lot of police departments use a term called, we're a stats driven department. We're stats oriented policing. All right. Again, statistics mean nothing. It's data. I need to be a data driven, not a statistics driven, because I could change statistics based on loads of different factors. All right. Or what's or how I alter a report or this, that, the other thing, but it's not going to be what truly is there geared around, what the math and what the data shows, when everything is added up and done, and the way they make, like we're really hitting a lot of things around law enforcement, and I guess today because I am law enforcement. But one of the things, like I saw, in this current time, is that they were sending some guys out to like Venice Beach, and they asked a question on how many black folks have been murdered by police. How many unarmed black men have been murdered by police? And the numbers they were coming out with were 1,000, 5,000, I believe 1,000, 5,000 a year, whatever. I think about what happened, and again, mentioned George Floyd. George Floyd is one guy, and look at the situation that came out of that. If law enforcement was killing 1,000 unarmed black men a year, think about the chaos that would be. We would be at war. We would be in a hot war right now if that was the case. So again, the narrative that's pushed a lot of times is geared around feelings, sometimes statistics, but never data, because they know data will tell the truth.
Amen. Sal, we've been on for an hour and 17 minutes on this jam session. It's been awesome. I want the audience.
No, we have not. We've only been, it has to be only 5 minutes.
Hour and 17 minutes.
So you know what? You know why? Because my feeling is I feel so good talking to you all the time that it felt like 5 minutes, but it really was in a. And you know what Einstein says?
Now, of course, you freeze up. So hopefully, Sal.
You're frozen. You're frozen. I think the stream is done.